Okay, there they are. Hello, everybody. We are just about to get the show going. I am over here on Facebook, which is a bad website, trying to send things. Oh, no. What's going on? Okay, well, thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you for all of your good suggestions for my rabbit dispensary company. Appreciate that very much. I am just now sending out the text message. So if you are signed up to our text message alert system, you should be getting a text message soon. There is still a holdup in the registration of that number. So if you might not get the alert if your phone company is suspicious of our number, which happens. But if you're not already signed up, you should sign up for our text message alert system. It's awesome. It'll help you get the show when big tech doesn't want you to get it. So go check it out. You can text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. And we are just cleaning up our tabs real quick, double checking for any producers. Pretty light on producers today. If anybody was interested in producing this episode, this would be a good time. You can head to canarycryradio.com/support for that. Let's see here. Okay, Gons. Let's see. Oh, I don't even see the timer. Is the timer done? Now I don't even... Okay, Gons is giving me attitude, everybody. So we're going to get the show started. Let's do it. Let's go.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. We are live to tape on December 7th, 2022. This is episode 568, and today, Goblin mode. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle, I'm your best buddy, Basil.
And my name is Gons, formerly of the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, director of the Age of Deceit films, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, aka the Cabana Boy. Live to tape from California to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And today's emergent phenomenon Basil, I can't talk. What's going on? We're a podcast. We have to be able to talk. Emergent phenomenon. Rolling out the teardown, the reset. It's happening. It's happening so fast that there are stories that we can't even cover today. You know, like we had the $80 trillion blind spot from the Bank of International Settlements we talked about last episode. But then today, Swiss banks probed over suspicion, junior pay being capped, you know, keeping those young fellas down. So we're creating an ageist war. And speaking of ageist war, the EU hosted a 24-hour party in its $400,000 metaverse to appeal to young people, but nobody showed up because they're like down with the EU and the old people. They're not cool enough for the metaverse. Sam Bankman-Fried hires Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer. That's where we're at, you know? And then Amazon goes down this morning, but they're back up. So, you know, all is well. But, you know, brink of cyber pandemic. So there we are. That's where we're at. Those are the stories we won't cover. And now you can talk about the stories that we will.
No, won't, can't. But that was a nice little
We won't
Gon's mini show. Little Gon's mini show at the top of the show there. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I don't even know where to go from there. We got a great show today. I think everybody's going to love it. Yeah. But Gons, you know, look, buddy, we've been doing this a long time, but I think it's about time that I give you a disclaimer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Disclaimers are good. Yeah, let's do that.
Stalling. Okay, I don't know. We're trying a new format for this, but just wanted to let Gons know that, Gons and all the content moderators, censorship managers, be they robots or humans, everything you hear in this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral or ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. And what might that be, Gons? Well, let me give you a rundown.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
That's right. We're starting off with our lead story. The most important thing happening today is the Oxford Word of the Year. We'll be talking about Goblin mode. And then we'll be checking in with FLIPPY, specifically the social movement that is arising to the occasion when it comes to San Francisco Police Department's approval for killer robots. Then we'll be checking in with Ukraine and Russia, specifically some of the more recent psyops getting involved there. It's getting a little wild. Might remind you of something. And then an update on China. Some very interesting. It's been an interesting roller coaster. Trying to figure out what is propaganda, what is true, what is a movement of the people, and what is what the government wants you to see. Well, it seems like some sort of plan is playing out quite nicely in regards to China's COVID policy, the response to the protests. Then second half of the show, we've got the Twitter files. Yes, some updates on the Twitter files, some shocking revelations, not from the past, but from the present. And then, of course, you gotta talk about Trump and his current legal troubles. Then at the end of the show, Shark Week. We're going to be talking about sharks, Shark Week, racism, misogyny, the patriarchy. It's all coming together, folks, so stick around to the end of the show. But first, Gons, our lead stories.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people zoo.
What happens to people in a people zoo? They turn into goblins.
Is this a question?
CNN.com. Goblin mode chosen as Oxford Word of the Year for 2022. It says here. Yeah. Are you excited about that? Do you think it's warranted?
I don't know about excited, but tell me more. I have some things.
As you read this, look around. Are you still in bed? Are there piles of clothes and takeout food boxes strewn across the floor? Do you have chip crumbs on your sheets? Have you broken your self-care routine more times than you can count? Do you not even care? If so, you might already be in Goblin mode, chosen by the public as the 2022 Oxford Word of the Year. According to Oxford University Press, publishers behind the Oxford English Dictionary, the slang term refers to a type of behavior which is, quote, unapologetically self-indulgent, lazy, slovenly, or greedy, typically in a way that rejects social norms or expectations, end quote, traits that may have become familiar to many during lockdown. Oh, how about that? We just created a generation of goblins, literal goblins.
Imagine that.
What I thought was interesting was that they did a public poll, I guess, and the group of lexicographers at OUP gave people a choice of Goblin mode, metaverse, and hashtag I stand with. And Goblin mode won with 318,956 votes. 93%. It's a landslide victory for Goblin mode over metaverse and hashtag I stand with.
That's hilarious. It's hilarious for a couple of reasons. Number one, I stand with, of course, the social justice thing.
Yeah.
You can use it in almost any situation. Most recently, I stand with Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I stand with China, those types of things. You would think that the sort of trends and forces behind I stand with would make it sort of the virtuous choice, for the word of the year. What was the other one? Metaverse, right?
Yeah.
So you've got sort of the socially acceptable, virtuous choice. Then you've got metaverse, which has a lot of economic force behind it. It's got a lot of, sort of futuristic, technocratic influence behind it. 2022 was the year where metaverse became, a household word. And then Goblin mode, which is a phrase that almost nobody, look, I had heard of Goblin mode. I had used Goblin mode. It was sort of it's more of like an underground sort of internet young person's
I can tell you about the
term.
origin. The article does mention it here. The rise of Goblin mode.
Yes. Well, I have it right here too,
okay.
And I think this fits in. I think this fits into the whole situation because Goblin mode is more of like a populist term. I'd say it's the most populist term, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it sort of has its roots in lockdown sort of pandemic lifestyle, which is, lazy and, sort of a bit of virtue built into it because what are you doing if you're in Goblin mode? You're staying home.
Yeah.
You're protecting the rest of the population.
Yeah. Well, according to CNN, it says here that the term was used in 2009. But went viral on social media.
I have it right here. I think it's very interesting.
Okay.
Do you have the root of its virality in 2022?
Yeah, it shot to prominence after a fake headline claimed that the rapper formerly known as Kanye West and Julia Fox broke up after she went Goblin mode. Kanye West, yay, at it again. Just showing up in the
It was
milieu. Specifically, it gets a little bit more dialed in over on the Wikipedia. Okay.
It says here, the term went viral in 2022 due to a tweet by Twitter user Juniper featuring a doctored headline of an interview with Julia Fox. So I think it's interesting how, it became popular because of a headline. Gons, our whole job is going deeper than the headlines. But it was a doctored headline that made this popular in the first place. Doctored headline of an interview with Julia Fox where she alleges that her then boyfriend Kanye West's dislike of her going Goblin mode was the cause of their breakup. So specifically, with all the news about Kanye West recently, specifically Goblin mode is something that Kanye West does not approve of. So you can see Goblin mode as a sort of underhanded protest against racism and anti-Semitism and things like that. So I think it's very relevant. And Goblin mode, you went a little Goblin mode this year, didn't you?
Me? No. I discovered early on, I know everyone's on Twitter Spaces now, but it's been around for a while, and I randomly went into this NFT project called Goblin Town into their spaces to see what was going on. And do you recall? I did play this, but here's a few seconds of what it was. These are grown men and women, I'm assuming, humans, grown adults on social media as goblins having conversations.
You human. I want to sweep the floor right now, I think.
And this was not Halloween, by the way. This was over the summer.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing about that we had commented at the time was like, it's kind of a LARPing thing. It's a role-playing activity that these people were engaging in. You get a goblin NFT and then you role play as the character in your NFT. It's just a very I think this is been sort of, if Goblin mode as a rhetorical device
right.
has some really deep roots in sort of the zeitgeist right now, and it'll be interesting to see how this manifests now that Goblin mode phrase is in the dictionary, or it's sort of
the word of the year.
The establishment has
cemented.
Recognized the existence and importance of Goblin mode. Yeah. So, well, there you go, Gons. What are you going to do?
Well, I mean, there's things that I can do, but there's things that I won't do.
Okay.
It is Wednesday.
All right. Wednesday.
Hey guys, know what day it is? It's Wednesday. Time for the Canary Cry News Talk. Yeehaw!
It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday, my dude. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Goblins' lives matter.
Something about Goblin mode as well. Even in recent sort of fantasy fiction, goblins have an interesting reference, and that is the goblins at Gringotts, which is the bank, the wizard bank in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And there's been some criticism of these goblins who run the bank in J.K. Rowling's thing, sort of, again, referring to some anti-Semitism there. But, so you look at all the ingredients. There's some very interesting undertones to the whole Goblin mode thing.
Yoda, the most wise goblin.
Is he considered a goblin?
The debate is out there on the internet. If Yoda is,
he certainly takes the form of a goblin. Well, it is the middle of the week, Gons. We are live slightly earlier today. We're trying to get started even earlier, but for us, this is an early start, so that's okay. That feels good. You got anything interesting to bring to our attention?
I was going to bring something up, but I don't remember what it was now, so it's a little too late. So let's just focus on you, buddy. What are you up to? I did
focus on me.
Yeah, it's always
this is you might not realize it, but you don't actually ask about me very often in this section. Yeah, it's always I ask about you, and then I'm just sort of left to bring up my own issues. So thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been chasing rabbits, So
yeah. Well, the only thing I have updates on is first of all, no idea that so many people would have interest in Basil's Bunny Ranch.
You got people ready to go. We've got
shipment. Some. Yeah. If you missed the end of last episode, I was sort of lamenting the fact that I now have had 2 litters of bunnies, and the bunnies are taking over the property here.
Be fruitful and multiply.
Exactly. So I was trying to find ways to deal with this bunny problem. And I just threw the offer out there. If anybody is interested in a genuine Basil bunny, hit me up. So thank you for all the emails. I do not have quite the details worked out on what shipping bunnies is like. So we're still working on it. But if you emailed me, I see your email. And there was a lot of good suggestions on what I should call the new bunny operation.
It wasn't going so well at the end of last episode. So thank you for the input.
It's a hard thing to do, to stay sort of to keep the branding family friendly for some reason. Lots of good suggestions. I am tentatively decided on Razzle Dazzle Rabbits. I think that's the closest one so far. That doesn't, won't also trigger some.
I don't know, man. It depends depending on what part of the world you're from. That might really be a problem.
What part of the world has a problem with Razzle Dazzle?
Razzle Dazzle Rabbits,
Yeah.
The problem is that the bunny, the rabbit itself, has sort of been co-opted by
what?
There's a magazine from the 70s or something that kind of co-opted the whole idea.
You're talking about Playboy?
Yeah. So even though you're trying with the rabbits, even though you're trying to be,
I think that was the problem we were having. I know that's why I got rid of the bunny part. I'm going with rabbits. Mm-hmm. These are animals, God's creation, who need a home and have been personally, I don't know, animal husbandried by your best buddy. So I'll have some more information on that. If anybody has a better name than razzledazzlerabbits.com, hit me up. That is currently the one sitting in my shopping cart.
You can use, what about like the word hair, Razzle dazzle hairs.
I don't know why that's any better than mine. But I hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just throwing.
Rabbits are not the inappropriate part. The bunny.
Yeah, the bunny.
Was Razzle Dazzle Rabbit Ranch is better than Razzle Dazzle Bunny Ranch. Anyways,
or the bunny hole, going down the bunny hole.
Mm-hmm. And moving on, we want to thank some executive producers for supporting this show.
Executive producers.
That's right. We're on the value for value model, folks, which means we take no corporate money whatsoever. No advertisements, no selling of your personal information, no renting out our email list to politicians, all the fun ways that corporate money can manifest in independent media. That's because we want to stay truly independent. And we can only do this through the value for value model, which means if you, dear listener, yes, you, get any value out of this show, you have the opportunity or the responsibility to put some value back in. You can do that with your time, your talent, your treasure, all sorts of ways to do it. But the executive producers, they come in financially to help carry a heavy burden for the rest of us. Remember, these executive producers are not just supporting the show for our sake, they're supporting it for your sake. And as of now, Gons, we have one executive producer to thank. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to thank executive producer Arnie W.
Arnold. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Executive producer Arnold W. We appreciate it. Coming in with a nice round number, which means we will not disclose the amount on the show. If you don't mind us disclosing the amount, you just make it a funky number, throw 33 cents on there or whatever you want to do to send a message. But as of now, that is our one and only beloved executive producer.
Thank you very much, Arnold W.
Where'd you find this?
That's right. And with that, it's time to keep moving. Let's check in on Flippy.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
That's right. It's time for the Flippy update. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world and how there's nothing we can do about it. Today's Flippy update is coming from abcnews.go.com, and it is an update on the San Francisco police robot situation. We've been following this, well, for 7 years now, but most recently, San Francisco Police Department attempted to sneak in the language into some local government decisions there to be able to use robots to murder humans if they so chose. They then got caught for trying to sneak it in which so they got taken out, and then they just blatantly put it in there. Wasn't trying to be sneaky, just said, hey, let us kill people with the robots. And it was approved by the city council. And yet, we have an update, Gons. Let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
San Francisco is reversing a plan that would have allowed police to use robots for lethal force. Just last week, city supervisors allowed the use of armed robots in extreme cases, but they got a lot of pushback from the public, so the plan has now been rejected. Critics said more discussion is needed.
There you go. You see all these people holding up signs. You know what the difference with this protest with all the other ones I've seen that are become news stories? The signs
have words on their signs.
There are words that make sense.
Sheets of paper.
And it looks homemade. It actually looks like they spent the time to put it together. No nylon, printed at the shop.
No
big,
manufactured signs.
No buses dropping off people to protest. This looks like a genuine concern from the people, which is interesting because it's sort of galvanizing. The political lines are changing. The teams are changing in a sense, or at least.
Well, at least it seems to be an authentic grassroots expression of the will of the people, which we see so rarely now.
Yeah.
We see so rarely with social issues and the organization of protesting and things like that. It is almost always supported with some big money coming from somewhere. And it truly looks as if the pushback against killer robots is an actual expression of the will of the people, which is very interesting. There are some interesting details, though, going into the article. Here's a quote. "The people of San Francisco have spoken loud and clear. There is no place for killer police robots in our city." Supervisor Dean Preston told ABC News in a statement, quote, "There have been more killings at the hands of police than any other year on record nationwide."
Is that true?
That's news to me. That's news to me.
Or?
If 2022 has the highest amount of police killings, I've not heard that, but well, who knows? Quote continues, "We should be working on ways to decrease the use of force by local law enforcement, not giving them new tools to kill people." The news comes a day after community groups protested outside San Francisco City Hall, condemning the ordinance, which the San Francisco Board of Supervisors approved in an 8-3 vote on November 29th. I want to know who the three are that voted against the will of the people for killer robots, but okay.
The robot, the cyborgs. They're already, half robots. They're like, must vote for my kind.
Yes, I am a human on the supervisor board. I'm not AI.
I like this big sign here that says, "We all saw that movie. No killer robots." Very good.
Yes, lots of that's how you know it's real. Before the board's vote reversing the course, the American Civil Liberties Union of Northern California told ABC News that it was a terrible idea to let cops use robots for deadly force. Oh, they needed the American Civil Liberties Union to tell them that deadly robo-cops was a bad idea. See, folks, this is why you listen to the show. You're ahead of even the American Civil Liberties Union. Quote, "Allowing them to kill remotely will lead to more mistakes, and as we have seen many times before with other police weapons, to more frequent use," ACLU NorCal said. Now, here's the interesting part in regards to our long tradition of tracking the developments in this area. In a letter to Mayor London Breed and city board members, dozens of racial justice groups, civil rights and civil liberties organizations, LGBTQ organizations, and labor unions called for board members to change their vote, saying the use of robots would be dangerous to not only San Francisco residents, but to people who visit the city. Now, I don't know if you remember this. This was before we started the Clips channel, so I'm not sure if this is clipped out. But in 2020, I believe I went on a long rant about it doesn't matter, Gons, what you and I have to say about robots. It doesn't matter what Republicans have to say about robots, because remember, they were getting a lot of heat for being anti-robot, and it was even mixed in. There was conversations about robo-bigotry. Being bigoted against robots is like one of the new things to hate Republicans about. And I went on a long rant about the only possible way for a legitimately effective pushback against killer robots is if you make it a social justice issue. Racial justice, civil rights, civil liberties organizations, LGBTQ organizations, and labor unions. These are all left-wing sort of funded groups. And it can only happen if it's made into a social justice issue, which in this case it has. And it's got all the correct groups. Like, seriously, do you think that the San Francisco Board of City Supervisors would have listened if the NRA had said they don't want killer robots? Or,
Basil, example number one, I mean, we've been basically saying stuff like this for years.
Exactly.
Warning,
they're not listening to us.
They're not listening at all to, not even close. But these organizations get involved. Their voice carries weight around.
And you know who else they're not listening to, who's been against killer robots? That is Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. Even the devil himself, Elon Musk, the billionaire, doesn't have the sway with the San Francisco city supervisors, as do the LGBT organizations, civil rights, civil liberties, those types of. Oh, and labor unions was the funny
labor
part.
Labor unions, yeah. Well, yeah. I understand that that part of the their arguments against robots more than just the killer robots, but
well documented.
Yeah. Well, congratulations for another Called It.
That's right. It happened exactly the way it had to, as predicted on Canary Cry News Talk. Just to end the article here, there's this quote, the use of robots in potentially deadly force situations is the last resort option. We live in a time when unthinkable mass violence is becoming more commonplace. San Francisco Police Chief William Scott said at the time, quote, we need the option to be able to save lives in an event that we have that type of tragedy in our city. And this I thought was very ominous because, of course, we've seen horrible mass violence tragedies be used to tighten the grip of law enforcement, tighten the grip of surveillance, and tighten the grip of policymakers around free citizens. And right on script, the San Francisco police chief coming out using the trigger words about, hey, you don't like mass shootings, right? You don't like mass violence. You don't like those NRA Republican terrorists running around your San Francisco. Well, if you don't like them, you're going to need the robots, okay? So just stop resisting. We'll find a new way to word our use of robots if that makes you feel better. But I have a feeling this ain't over quite yet.
No, and it will be interesting to track these liberal groups and their sentiment, because in a year, depending on the event, there could be a black swan event, some kind of mass violence, unthinkable mass violence, as the police chief says here, which will make the call for such robots as a cry to make it happen quickly, So
one more Pulse nightclub event, one more
in San Francisco event
too. In San Francisco at an LGBTQ club, and then the police officer the police chief afterwards will say, if only we had a robot, or that would have solved our problems.
Or you have, because there's always drills happening nearby, you have the robot just come in and save the day. Right. It just happened to be they were performing a drill down the street, and
exactly.
Might as well unleash it.
Boston Dynamics demo was happening down the street, and Spot came to the rescue.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's your Flippy update for the day.
Very good. Yep. This feels science fiction, to be honest. Like, we're part of the science fiction plot to actually see protests against armed robots in the streets. Yeah. Wow. 2022, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The year it all started to happen, I guess.
Happened fast.
Yep. Other things happening around the world. Russia, Ukraine.
Russia.
Fight for Ukraine. New world order.
This is really turning into a holy war.
Lift your hands in victory. This is our finest hour. For the sleeping giant called the church is rising up in power.
Oh Lord, bless this thy hand grenade.
God will make you pay. Smite them.
This is RT.com. We're not carrying
some Russian propaganda.
We're not carrying water for Putin. We're just reading from his outlet here. The headline, Zelensky cracks down on Ukraine's biggest church. Kyiv's domestic security agency has launched a series of raids at Orthodox church sites. And the article states here, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has announced new measures seeking to ban religious institutions deemed to have links with Russia. He said the move is intended to safeguard the nation's spiritual independence amid Kyiv's conflict with Moscow. Interesting. Spiritual independence, huh? By shutting down churches. The president's principal target is the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the country's largest, which is linked to the Moscow Patriarchate. The statement comes as the SBU, Ukraine's domestic security agency, launched what it called a counterintelligence action at several Ukrainian Orthodox church sites in 3 regions. Oh, they launched a counterintelligence program? The raids targeted at least 8 religious sites on Friday, aiming to identify individuals suspected of undermining Ukraine's sovereignty. That's very ironic. Okay.
Yeah, in the name of national security.
In the name of national security.
We need to take away religious freedoms. We need to make the Orthodox Church illegal. We need to raid them with law enforcement. Yeah, it makes total sense for the liberal bastion of justice, Ukraine.
Yeah, I love this right here. Writing on Telegram, Zelensky said on Thursday that the National Security and Defense Council has held a meeting which focused on, quote, numerous facts of ties of certain religious circles in Ukraine with the aggressor state, end quote. The council has instructed Ukraine's government to introduce a law to make it impossible for, quote, religious organizations affiliated with centers of influence in Russia to operate in the country, Zelensky said. And, Telegram has become such a huge outlet for all of this. I just pictured, and I'm wondering, what kind of, we're already in a world where, people are protesting about robots in the streets. We're goblin mode at home, looking at all this stuff. But I'm picturing Zelensky, he's walking around and looking real presidential, and then walking into like an Orthodox church in Ukraine, and kind of looking around. He sees like a woman praying, and then she gives him that look of like, don't do it, but then Zelensky, his eyes turn into lizard eyes. And then he starts walking out. She looks at an assistant. He like nods at him, to start the counterintelligence raids and all that. And then, as he's walking back to his vehicle, his like military vehicle, he asks for Telegram. And then somebody brings like a laptop up to him, and then he types away on Telegram these messages. Is that what's happening? These evil people running the world?
That is quite the scene you just.
Well, I'm just saying, like these guys, it makes it sound like they're, they're dedicated time to Telegram, the message. It's just so weird.
No, it's a bizarre
time we live in, where it's like I guess it started with Trump and Twitter, but
we've seen the movement. I mean, Twitter became news. That's why it's such a valuable sort of resource for a billionaire to purchase. But yes, Telegram, as we'll see in even more stories today, Telegram is this strange thing. It's just a messaging service. It's basically a sort of Twitter with channels, is more or less what it is.
Right.
And it has become a primary source for lots of reporting about what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, there's so little like boots on the ground reporting. Almost everything we hear is this was said on a Telegram channel, so this is now the news. But I mean, I think it's very interesting the shutdown. I mean, this is a literal shutdown. They are shutting down these religious bodies in Ukraine, can no longer meet, can no longer operate because they are considered a national security risk. I mean, it's just boggles the mind as to how, I mean, this is like literal fascism, and how I stand with Ukraine is on so many, free-thinking, liberal-loving Twitter accounts, when what you're saying is, we want to use this power of the state to take away religious freedoms, not just religious freedoms, but it's just even some sort of like intelligence agency crackdown law enforcement activity on religious organizations. Now, is the logic there? I can see the logic if they are worried about the Orthodox Church having too close a ties to Russia and using, Russia using the church to influence the minds,
the local people,
the local blah blah blah. But still, I mean, it's an incredible development as far as the psychological operations of this entire thing, goes.
Yeah.
It's a next step and plays directly into Putin's HolyWar narrative.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't play along any better. With your enemy's narrative about the war.
Yeah, and I'm showing, for those of you watching, I'm showing that Trump Tower card, the Trump Planet Tarot card cover on The Economist from 2017, and that first card, the Tower card, where it shows the tower being smashed. Now we bring it up every once in a while on the show, but on one side you have sort of the communist hammer and sickle, and on the other side you have the cross, and then the Tower of Protestantism being sort of torn apart. It's very interesting. So, this plays right into that. And Zelensky, you're on the wrong side, buddy. You seem to be on the side of that.
It's a strange. Yeah. The article ends with this paragraph. The two main rival factions. Okay, let me go back just one bit. Sure. Ukraine has long experienced religious tensions with a number of entities claiming to be the true Ukrainian Orthodox Church, challenging the authority of the Moscow Patriarchate. The two main rival factions are the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which declared independence from Moscow after Russia launched its military operation, and the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, which is considered by the Russian Orthodox Church to be schismatic. Schismatic. What does that mean? Schism? Did they disconnect? So both of these Orthodox churches claim to have disconnected from Russian Orthodox Church. But I
mean, this sounds like you can replace all this with like Zionism and Israel and the Jews and all that kind of stuff. There's division within, but then the world paints them in one direction or whatever.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Christians.
About Christians, yeah. It's just the blueprint, I guess, of division.
The ignorance of the subtle complexities inside a larger group.
Yeah, the schismatics. Schismatics of all institutions.
So the HolyWar continues. Here's a little update. This is kind of plays into the Afrofuturism storyline.
What shall we do?
What shall we do?
Now, this is very interesting. This is coming from an outlet called Mayadeen.net, which you look at, and it looks like they've tried very hard to sort of copy the Al Jazeera style. Brand. Yeah. It's like they stole the Al Jazeera brand, which I'm immediately pretty skeptical of. So the headline is "Weapons Delivered to Ukraine Beginning to Filter to Africa, Nigeria." Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari urges heads of state from neighboring states participating in the Lake Chad Basin Commission to confront the issue of Western arms smuggling from Ukraine. And it goes like this. Weapons supplied to Ukraine from Western countries are starting to flow into the Lake Chad Basin region, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari warned this week. Addressing the heads of state from neighboring states participating in the Lake Chad Basin Commission on Tuesday in the Nigerian capital of Abuja, the president said, quote, "Regrettably, the situation in the Sahel and the raging war in Ukraine serve as major sources of weapons and fighters that bolster the ranks of the terrorists in the region." Buhari then urged his counterparts to increase security cooperation in order to confront the issues of arms smuggling. The Nigerian president agreed to step up military coordination in their country's war against Boko Haram and ISIS terrorists, who are now apparently receiving weapons from Ukraine, alongside the leaders of Benin, Chad, Niger, and the Central African Republic. Last month, Finnish police said that some of the huge quantities of weapons being shipped to Ukraine had made their way to Finland, where three of the world's largest motorcycle gangs now operate, including Bandito Toledo's MC, which, quote, has a branch in every major city in Ukraine. In August, an American news outlet unmasked that a shockingly large amount of weaponry heading to Ukraine was untraceable. Quote, like 30% of it reaches its final destination, said a tweet that was later deleted after a swarm of online trolls attacked it. Now, this is really suspicious to me, because what they're referring to is the CBS report, the CBS documentary that quickly got taken down by the powers that be and sort of erased. The tweet and the article and the documentary were all taken down at once in response, because there can be nothing but ultimate support for Ukraine in the U.S. media. But this article doesn't mention CBS. It doesn't mention the documentary. It doesn't mention really the most important parts of this aspect, but instead doesn't name a source, doesn't really talk about the story, but instead refers to a tweet that was deleted after a swarm of online trolls attacked it. Not because the government told them to take it down. It's online. It was attracting trolls.
It's all those people in Goblin mode. We had to, We had to chop them off.
Very suspicious reporting. It kind of stinks of. It kind of has like an American sort of, I don't know, intelligence bent to it. Don't want to give too many of the details, but trigger the emotion that is included there. It goes on. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu had previously said the arms supplied by the West to Ukraine were ending up on the black market and spreading across West Asia. And it goes into some other quotes from Russian guys. Now, I did sort of follow the rabbit hole a little bit on this story. The only other outlet that is really reporting this in any sort of mainstream sense is Sputnik News, which is, allegedly Russian state media as well. So, the whole thing could be Russian propaganda or psyop. However, there was a connected story to where BBC was tracking Ukraine weapons sales online. Weapons were showing up. American weapons were showing up on the dark web for sale on social media, stuff like this. And allegedly, this BBC reporter went through and tried to buy some or whatever, investigated these arms for sale, and decided that they were all Russian fakes, that the Russians were faking selling Ukraine arms that had come from the U.S. But again, there are some very suspicious things in here. So long story short, there is an incredible sort of propaganda battle going on right now. Almost certainly, we know because of the CBS reporting that at least in the first 6 months of the war, an incredibly small amount of the weapons were actually making it to the front lines. However, there is not a single mainstream outlet in the Western media that is going so far as to do any reporting on where these weapons are ending up. The only sort of reference to the West is that Ukrainian biker gangs are bringing the weapons to Finland.
Yeah,
and then Finland is somehow trafficking them to Africa.
Those Finnish people.
Yeah, so it comes as no surprise that this could very possibly be going on, but there is a lot of energy going in to muddying the waters on this story. I would expect both from the Russians and from the West, because of course the West doesn't want to admit that this is happening because it's embarrassing that all of our tax dollars are actually going to possibly be arming Boko Haram and ISIS in Africa, especially when Nigeria is one of the main sort of
bastions of
right. Nigeria being the sort of technocratic Afrofuturist puppet of the West's foothold in Africa. So yeah, very interesting. I don't know. I had a hard time really getting a straight answer about this whole thing, but that's why it's difficult to figure out what's going on in the world.
Yeah, well, we appreciate Basil's hairy hairs of for hire holes. Rabbit trail.
Still very, very not good. Still very bad.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And this is why we leverage the people, not me. But also, talking about Putin here.
We'll control them with toileting.
Oh, they're controlling Putin with toileting. This is New York Post. And it's about the Ukrainian war. Putin fell downstairs, soiled himself as speculation over worsening health grows, reports. Oh man,
okay,
that's propaganda right there. That's you want a smear campaign. You just soil yourself. Russian President Vladimir Putin fell down the stairs and soiled himself this week amid mounting speculation that his health is declining. An anti-Kremlin Telegram channel, and there it is again.
Another Telegram channel
with apparent links to his security team reported. That's what Putin wants you to think. Oh, yeah, I'm just a guy over here, soiling myself. But in reality, Putin, 70, suffered the unfortunate fall at his Moscow official residence on Wednesday evening, according to the Telegram channel. Quote, General SVR, which purports to be run by former Russian spy. The ailing Russian leader allegedly fell down 5 steps before landing on his, I don't know how to say this, the tailbone, the coccyx. Is that how you say it?
Coccyx.
Okay, that was close. Although his security guards immediately rushed to his aid, the impact of the fall caused Putin to, quote, involuntarily defecate due to, quote, cancer affecting his stomach and bowels, according to the channel. The incident is the latest health scare for Putin, who is rumored to suffering from worsening cancer and Parkinson's disease amid the ongoing war with Ukraine.
Yeah. Does it say which Telegram channel, or does it just say a Telegram channel?
No, it says, according to the Telegram channel, I think it gives a link to it too. General SVR, which purports to be run by a former Russian spy. So they actually link to the Telegram channel.
Yeah, sounds like a CIA operation.
Yeah. Yeah. And
yes, I am a Russian spy. Can't you tell from my accent?
I love this. They have a picture
Dave,
here.
It's a bad accent.
I like how the New York Post is doing what, sort of fringy blogs used to do when they have a photo of Putin here, speaking at a desk with somebody, and he's kind of has his hand under the edge of the table. And it's got a big old red circle, and then it's got his, his toes are up off the ground, and it's got a big old red circle.
Proof.
And it says, Putin mysteriously gripping the desk during a meeting, as if that is unequivocal proof that he's struggling to hold it all in because of his cancer.
Yeah. It's just so funny. This Telegram channel reporting thing is so hilarious. It's a common thing to do to, run these little psychological operations on, enemy leaders. You had Napoleon being billed as a small man. He really wasn't that small. He was normal sized for that time. You had, Hitler and his IBS. Mm-hmm. I don't know much about the Hitler IBS thing. I've seen that it may have been more of a, this type of thing, an embarrassing piece of psychological operation.
You and Ye agree.
Maybe I should ask Kanye about Hitler's IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So it kind of fits in with that, just sort of ongoing propaganda. Who knows, though? I mean, the whole Putin has cancer thing has been around for a while.
It is the point of fear for the nuke. His time is short. Yes. He's running out. He wants to leave a legacy. He may just push that button. So the more we see of this, the more
he can't control his own bowels. How can he control his own nukes?
That's a really good argument. We need to take him down.
Yeah.
I think we're going to rolling with the Ukrainian cyber internet warriors and try to take down the man. But anyway, this is
it's just very, very interesting.
Very interesting, pretty typical, but also New York Post, involving themselves in this is very interesting as well. Just to kind of look at the, it looks like a Daily Mail post almost with all these circles on these pictures. I don't know if this is something they put together or if they're just taking stuff from social media.
And just grabbed it from the Telegram channel
or something, but it's just I mean, the direct propaganda. But it's not just Russia. Russia's not the only place we need to keep an eye on. There are other.
Let's talk about China
issues.
Welcome to Chinese news.
It comes from China. 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 It's not racist at all, no.
Chinese news!
Let's talk about China, because we've been sort of loosely following the protests, the anti-COVID lockdown protests, which started with a horrific fire that people were locked in the building because of COVID lockdowns, which turned into nationwide protests, the blank paper protests, the white paper protests, whatever you want to call it, A4 protests. And there was some speculation about whether, the fact that we were even able to see video of the protest, was this propaganda from the government, or was it really, being snuck out by rogue reporters or citizens? Well, I don't think the question is on the table anymore with this next story. This, especially because it's coming from CNN.com, notoriously compliant with the Chinese Communist Party, has a headquarters in Beijing. CNN does, notoriously sort of caught colluding with the government over there. The headline is China scraps some of its most controversial COVID rules in significant step towards reopening. Oh, goodness gracious, guns. China announced sweeping changes to its national pandemic response on Wednesday, the clearest and most significant sign yet that the central government is moving away from its strict zero COVID approach that prompted protests across the country. Yes?
I was just going to say, Xi has a heart. Maybe they gave him a heart.
Right. Yeah, well, it's interesting because one of the reasons China makes it so difficult to get videos of protests and stuff like that is to manage its reputation in the West. It doesn't want the West knowing that there's public unrest, which is why I was suspicious when protest videos started coming out. But, nobody expected China to actually listen to the protesters to do anything like that. This feels like an attempt by the Chinese Communist Party to sort of get the heat off of them from the West, from Western journalists, from Western politicians, things like that. In a statement reported by state broadcaster CCTV, China's State Council unveiled 10 new guidelines that loosen some restrictions, most notably allowing home quarantine and largely for entering most public spaces. So right off the bat, CNN is mentioning the two most egregious COVID policies in China, but mentions it in words that aren't so scary. Number one, allowing home quarantine, as opposed to sending them to the quarantine camps, taking people from their homes and putting them in what basically amount to concentration camps, and largely scrapping the health QR code that has been mandatory for entering most public spaces. That's the
mark of the beast prototype.
The COVID pass, right? Yeah. The passport. Local governments had already taken steps this week that indicated a possible change in direction, including some major cities loosening requirements on COVID testing. And that's right. Some of these places, you had to test every single day. You had to stand in a line for hours, sometimes in a snowstorm or whatever, to get tested, or else you couldn't leave your home. But this is the first official change in COVID policy on a national level, a notable turnaround by Beijing, which for the past 3 years has insisted that unwavering restrictions are the only effective way to stamp out the highly transmissible virus. Here are some of the biggest changes. And then they just kind of list them here. You got the QR code scrapped, home quarantine allowed, limits on lockdown, vaccination plan, domestic travel being allowed, medicine schools and monitoring, some of the details on their tracking, stuff like that has changed, which is really, when you boil it down, good PR for the Chinese Communist Party coming out of CNN.
Yeah.
Now, any comments there?
No, I'm just print the change logo with G's face.
Yeah, the Obama poster.
The Obama change, but
right.
It's G.
Now, this came out the 7th. That's today. Now, a couple days ago, there's this article that I thought was fascinating from The Hill. And The Hill, sort of notoriously right-leaning outlet here in the U.S., the headline, "Don't assume China cannot change." Don't assume China cannot change guns. This is coming from a right-leaning outlet. Protests in China in response to the government's harsh zero-COVID rules became the largest since the 1989 Tiananmen incident. They are bigger, bolder, and more broadly supported than anything China has seen in the last 30 years. After making worldwide headlines, the unrest recently led to the easing of some COVID-19 policies. While many questions remain, including whether the protests will continue to spread, whether there will further loosening of rules, or whether protests will ultimately be quashed by the authorities, they make one thing crystal clear. China can change, and its seemingly relentless slide towards greater authoritarianism is not inevitable. The assumption, widely repeated by Western policymakers, CEOs, and analysts, that China cannot change is misplaced. We need to rethink it, and that is the most important message we should be taking from the protesters. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, draconian handling of COVID-19 has fundamentally contributed to Chinese citizens reaching this desperate point. But make no mistake, for many in China, these protests are about more than COVID-19. The core question animating protesters' concerns is, quote, "Are we confident that the future will be better than the present? After the devastation of the Great Leap Forward in the 1950s, and the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s and 70s, the Communist Party struck a deal with its citizens. Allow us to remain in power, and tomorrow will be better than today. But in 2022, few in China are confident about what the future holds." And it goes into a little bit more of the history of the 70s and the 60s, and even back in 2010, goes into some numbers, some polling numbers. What I thought was fascinating here is whether you are on the left, whether you are on the right, the American media wants to convince you that the China is not as bad as it sounds, that they can change. Just give them a chance. Just give them a chance. They can change, baby. Come on. It won't happen again. And which is a notable difference in what we've seen in the media forever, but specifically recent years, where it seems like the left kind of cuts China a break and the right is not moving an inch. So something has happened, some powerful movement in the back rooms of mainstream media, that the left and the right media is sort of gotten on the same page, that China, it's okay for us to continue being friends with China, stop being so mean to China, give them a chance to change.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
He's busy reading something else, folks.
No, I've been listening to you, and it's always I have thoughts as you go through it, and instead of interrupting, I save it till the end, and then it all just goes away because I'm on something else. But I think you point out something very important in the whole China thing, which is that I don't know, the currency of trust. I've been talking about this currency of trust thing, and the media flipping on stuff like this, it sounds to me like maybe somebody like Amazon, maybe there's, because they're trying to do sort of the same thing that they did to Jack Ma here in the US with tech companies. And I'm wondering if there's a connection there, because we had the Amazon thing this morning, right? And Amazon, a lot of people that make money on Amazon and have jobs, quote unquote, through Amazon and all that stuff, it's all through Alibaba. It's all through Chinese developed stuff, right? Am I wrong about that?
I don't know. I don't know
I think there's an economic
point yet.
I think there's an economic reason for this shift.
Yeah.
And sort of
absolutely.
It almost like they want to expose the issue with China, but maybe they went too far, and they're like, well, let's just reverse a little bit and gain a little bit more trust from the West again to be able to make deals or whatever it might be. And then the rug pull will come again later. But it's this buying back of trust that I've been talking about for a few weeks now, seeing media shift on things, and even these world institutions move around and do different things that you wouldn't expect, because the China narrative has gotten it was pretty bad. Like both sides were like really anti-China in the mainstream news for the most part, and that sentiment grew a lot in the last few months. So yeah, it is interesting to do a reversal like this to gain back a little bit of pro-China narratives in the mainstream.
Well, it is absolutely economic, because our current economic system, and a huge piece of our, American sort of corporate prosperity has been because of offshoring of manufacturing to China. That's how we're able to get things so cheap. And when things are cheap, that, plays a role in inflation and quality of life in America, especially for, the middle and upper classes, the lower classes benefit as well because of cheap products. Not that it doesn't hurt them too, because it also does. But in this economic era with runaway inflation, the sort of economic war that's been silently raging with China over the past few decades, well, I'll say the last 7 years at least, really coming to a head during Trump's era, and then continued on with Biden. When you consider the personal aspect of Biden's business interests in China being put at risk with the unacceptable nature perceived in the public, the unacceptable nature of doing anything with China for a lot of reasons, but including their ongoing lockdown practices, which now cause deaths of people and fires and things like this. And the public are obviously, it's turning into a social justice issue, or at least it has over the past few weeks.
Unlike in the U.S., it's an actual true, like social justice in the truest sense of the phrase.
Right. And there's a benefit to maintaining China as a version of an enemy, some sort of adversary, because that gives you leverage in economic deal making if you're in sort of the higher echelons of U.S. politics and business. It gives you a lot of leverage to have an acceptable adversary that you can still benefit from, not have to completely exile from your business, stuff like that, because you still want to benefit from the good parts of doing business with China. Well, recently, it's been harder and harder to justify. It's been harder and harder to justify anybody doing business with China, especially because of their tenuous connection to Russia in the war in Ukraine. But even last week, even in the past few weeks, we've seen Biden become friendlier and friendlier with Xi, talking about all these good conversations they're having. They're making deals, shaking hands at the G20. They're doing all these sorts of things.
There was a report about how Biden is ready to sit down with Putin if Putin's willing to back out. So, I mean, maybe 2023 is the year of peace, Basil.
Well, you're right.
Prince of Peace may come.
Yeah, it might start to signal a change in the Ukraine war. That's possible. I'm not quite sure about that. But yeah, so the long story short is it is economically beneficial to the elites in the U.S. to keep an acceptable level.
Right. They got to balance it.
Yeah, can't quite be a good guy. And that's kind of why you see the measured responses from The Hill and from CNN. It's not quite like, Xi's a great guy, we love him now. It's, see, they do have to bend. It is possible that they can change.
Which is interesting, because it was the mainstream media who were all about lockdowns and defending it all, throughout the pandemic and everything else. But once it ended out here in the West, and then continued rolling in China, and then people started going, hey, wait, what's going on here? Why are they, what's this zero COVID, this ridiculousness? Yeah. And so they pivoted. But who's actually economically trying to make some moves is Disney via Japan here. This is NPR.org. Japan's Disney store sells merchandise of Winnie the Pooh supporting China's protest. All those Winnie the Pooh dolls that's just sitting on the shelf. Let's get a little campaign going, support the people of China by buying a Winnie the Pooh.
Of course. And the background, of course, is that it was one of the sort of original secret ways to insult President Xi is you call him Winnie the Pooh, because he kind of looks like Winnie the Pooh. There was shirts, there was, this was used as a sort of a point of Chinese dissent, especially in the Hong Kong protests, was that Xi looks like Winnie the Pooh. It went so far as to they banned Winnie the Pooh as a character in China.
Right, which is, if you think about what Xi does over there in China, it's kind of like you and I both have social media. We've done stuff, and then we always have people saying things that are mean or whatever, or just making up stuff or whatever, saying things. Effectively, guys like Xi came out and just bans the people. He's like doing his own monitoring, which is subsequently has an effect on the entire country. But I just think it's funny that Disney's coming in, like, hey, we got these, got an overload of Winnie the Pooh product. We got to get something moving. Let's take advantage of the situation, and
which is a very interesting position for them to be in. Yeah, because Disney has been pro-China for the past few years. Yeah. Now it's funny. It's even more sort of clever is the product they're actually talking about here is a T-shirt that has a sort of stylized Winnie the Pooh on it on the front, and Winnie the Pooh is holding up a blank sheet of paper, referring to the white paper protests. Right. This weird back and forth, this merry-go-round of managing the public's expectations and also the public's relationship with China is quite the balancing act.
There's a story about Beijing, the Chinese Disneyland. This was out on October 31st, so not too long ago. Basically, the park shut down because of COVID, and nobody could leave. That's either great or horrible.
Locked them in?
They locked them in until they test negative. They couldn't leave.
Well, that's not a bad place to get locked down in Disneyland.
That's how, that's the backdoor revenue share with Disney, Hey, just lock them down, make them stay there.
Got to pay for your own hotel rooms.
Got to pay for, $8 for a bottle of water.
Stand.
The whole deal. So
that's funny.
Anyway, that's funny. Okay. Well, as I stated earlier, the EU made their metaverse. They hosted a 24-hour party, which cost them $400,000 to make. And nobody showed up. I think one person showed up. And that's because most people, especially Canarians, are partying with us. Go to canarycry.party. You'll find a tree of links that leads to everything from where to listen to the show, watch the show, how to produce the show, connect with us and the community.
Yeah, go check it out, canarycry.party. Notable thing over there. Of course, you can join our text message alert system. You can produce the show. You can find all the resources, the Canary Cry Clips channel, all of our broadcasting locations, all sorts of good stuff. But you can also find Ravel, which is a podcast I do with Dr. Christopher Ryan Gates, who's a PhD in biblical interpretation. Ravel's back on, folks. We've been putting out episodes past few weeks, good ones. We just did another teen study Bible study on addiction, which I think turned out pretty good. And we've got some really, really great guests coming up. So if you're interested in the Bible and the academic, scholarly exploration, plus having fun and taking a look at society, scripture, and scandal, go check out Ravel. There are 2 Ravel podcasts because the other one blatantly stole our name and actually bragged about it. But if you go check out Ravel, our logo is the one with the cool, colorful ball of abstract yarn. Go check it out. They also stole our logo after. They changed their logo to look more like ours. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. They had a different logo, which admittedly wasn't good. But then they changed their logo and it looks a lot like our logo now. So help us win the podcast wars by go listening to Ravel, leave ratings and reviews. And with that, Gons, let's thank some producers.
It's break time! Come on, take a break.
That's right. We're taking a quick break because we're on the value for value model, and we want to thank some of our producers. Our producers, they're just like you folks. They're listeners who get value out of the show. And because we take no corporate money whatsoever, for all sorts of reasons, it is entirely up to the listeners of this show to decide what kind of value they get out of this show, and then to put some value back in. Have you produced a show, an episode of CCNT in this year? Maybe, we're running out of episodes for 2022. If you want to say you helped produce the show in 2022, why don't you head on over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. All sorts of ways to produce the show, your time, your talent, or your treasure. But we're going to thank some financial producers right now for keeping this show going for one more episode.
Very good.
Let's start out. Oh, we already thanked our executive producer, Arnold W. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arnold.
We got a few more people to thank.
Okay.
Starting with producer Jeanette R.
Jeanette R. Thank you.
Yeah, Jeanette R. joins the Patreon, supporting us on a monthly basis. We thank you very much for that, Jeanette R.
Appreciate it.
We also have producer Sir Moore of Night of the Burning Chariots coming in with 1111 on a 173 streak.
Thank you, Sir Moore.
That's right. He has a quick note. He says, "Happy WMD."
Hey, not ready for that one. WMD,
okay,
which is
well,
Wednesday.
the note continues.
Okay, yeah.
And says, "Hope everyone is having a good week."
Yeah, very good.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Thank you, Sir Moore.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Let's see here. We have Sir LX Protocol V2 Night of the Berean Protocol, set pocket full of 7s, and a 108 episode streak.
108.
Tweakers. Oh yeah!
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sir LX Protocol V2.
Indeed. And you know what, Gons? That concludes our list of producers who supported the show for $7 or $7.77 or more. Three producers today. Yeah, it was an interesting list. But we got a few more who came in under the $7.77, and we're going to thank them right now.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Starting with Dame Gale, Canary Whisperer, and Lady of X's and O's. 203 episodes in a row.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow.
Continue.
Okay. Interesting timing there. Sir Darren, Night of the Hungry Pandas, comes in for 79 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir Darren.
We have Dr. Who Done Dat, 4 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Dr. Who Done Dat.
Sir Casey the Shield Knight, 239 episodes in a row.
Sir Casey the Shield Knight, thank you.
We got the Streak Sister, Veronica D, 203 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Veronica D.
And Sir Scott, Knight of Truth, 228 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Streakalicious.
Women rule.
There you go.
That's right. There you go. That concludes our list of financial producers for this episode. Thank you very much for your patronage.
Shut up and take my money.
Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your patronage.
All right. Is it time to wake up?
Yes, I will remind everybody it isn't too late to support the show. You can head on over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support. Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Wake up, y'all. Twitter files.
Oh, yeah.
Psyops.
The Twitter files continue. In fact, there's even updates going on as we are live. So we'll try to keep up with as much of that as we can. But there were some interesting details coming out recently. To start off, we are going to jump over to Fox. We got a couple Fox things we're going to hit.
Okay.
And the headline here is James Baker, which if you read the Twitter files from Matt Taibbi, James Baker was kind of one of the main players. James Baker, Twitter lawyer, fired by Elon Musk, played key role in FBI's Trump-Russia collusion probe. Twitter's former deputy general counsel, James Baker, who was fired Tuesday by new CEO Elon Musk for suppression of information, has a long history of facing allegations of anti-Trump, pro-democratic bias in the public and private sectors. Substack journalist Matt Taibbi, whose Twitter files were released on Friday, revealed new details about the company's suppression of New York Post's Hunter Biden laptop story during the 2020 presidential election, shared an article on Sunday about Baker's connections to FBI controversies involving the Trump-Russia probe. The article from New York Post opinion writer Jonathan Turley said Baker was, quote, at the center of the Twitter suppression scandal and, quote, is fast becoming the Kevin Bacon of the Russia collusion scandals. That's a funny reference. Musk responded to Taibbi's tweet of the article by announcing that Baker, quote, was exited from Twitter today due to concerns over his possible, quote, possible role in suppression of information important to public dialogue. Taibbi later said part of the reason Baker was fired was because Baker himself had vetted the first installment of the Twitter files and had delayed the release of the second installment without Musk's knowledge. Wow. And this is something, if you've been following it live on Twitter, this has been a very annoying part of the Twitter files because Twitter Files 1 came out on Friday. That day, Elon Musk said, hey, Twitter Files 2 coming out tomorrow, which would have been Saturday, and they never came out. They didn't come out for Saturday, didn't come out Sunday.
They're behind on a lot of stuff. Where's that blue check mark thing opening
so
back
everybody's
up?
wondering why Twitter Files 2 has yet to be released. Turns out that the lawyer who somehow survived the culling from Elon Musk's, cleaning out the company, was filtering them, vetting them, delaying the release. He was playing a hand in the release of the information. Quote, on Friday, the first installment of Twitter Files was published here. We expected to publish more over the weekend. Many wondered why there was a delay, Taibbi tweeted. We can now tell you part of the reason why. On Tuesday, Twitter Deputy General Counsel and former FBI General Counsel Jim Baker was fired. Among the reasons, vetting the first batch of Twitter files without knowledge of new management. So FBI man Jim Baker got in between Elon and the posting of the Twitter files and kind of did a little cleanup job without Elon even knowing. Musk confirmed in a tweet Tuesday evening that he, quote, only discovered this on Sunday. Musk said he would give Baker a chance to explain himself before his termination, but that his explanation was unconvincing. Baker's name surfaced in Friday's installment. So it goes on a little bit more. So yeah, it's very interesting. Now, we've always known, it's been clear for years now, that Twitter was hiring FBI and former FBI. What is that smoking going on?
That's why I said the candle went out in front of me. So when the candle ran out of its wick,
you got some scented candles.
Yeah, they got a little candle running, but it's out now, so it's gonna.
That's funny.
Smell good in here.
So we knew that Twitter had FBI people working there, not just people from the bureau, but former FBI agents, current FBI agents, all this kind of stuff. The FBI was firmly embedded in all levels of Twitter, and seems like they had a man on the inside even after Elon had done his bidding.
I feel like this is kind of a microcosm of what we've known about these organizations and institutions is that, yes, we've known that these intelligence people are in there, but they just go under the radar. Like, they just don't really get noticed. They're really just kind of quietly moving in the background until they get called out on it like this. But it's just interesting because it's been, how long has this been a thing? Where these intelligence people are in all these different large corporate institutions and social media and everything else, places with a lot of influence over public discourse.
Yeah, it does beg the question, how did he survive Elon Musk? Why did Elon Musk keep him around?
All he needed to do was a word search for like FBI or CIA in his entire file stack of resumes or something,
I'm sure they don't put it on their resume, but it's Jim Baker was in the files. He was in the emails. He was involved in the original Hunter Biden laptop story from the first place. So why would he even be allowed to stick around without Elon knowing about it?
Yeah, too much delegation, Elon. Got to get in there more.
I have a suspicion that Elon wanted to keep, let the FBI think that they had their guy on the inside, kind of play the game, feed Jim Baker information that he could tell the FBI.
Are you claiming that Elon pulled off a canary trap?
So we've talked about the canary trap. That's exactly right. We don't know if a canary trap was involved in this, but for those who don't know, canary trap is an intelligence term for a way to discover who is a mole in your organization, which involves feeding different information to different people, and then whatever gets leaked, you can track that back to the person that you gave that specific information. But, it's just very interesting. It seems as though Elon would have known at least a couple weeks ago that Jim Baker was an FBI guy and that he kept him around. I think there's some sort of master plan going on here. I don't know why you would play with fire like this. But it sure does make for a dramatic twist in the whole Twitter files situation. So that might just be part of it.
How many people how many people from intelligence are at places like Twitter?
Well, countless. We know this. We knew that there were I forget the number. There was something like 100 or something at Twitter.
Listen to this about this Baker guy. 2004, according to Washington Post, Baker was responsible for the discovery that, quote, the government's failure to share information regarding the NSA electronic surveillance program had, quote, rendered useless a federal screening system insisted upon by the United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to prevent, quote, tainted information, the U.S. case law fruit of the poisonous tree, from being used before the court. It's kind of ironic that he's calling out the NSA stuff. Meanwhile, he's like, well, let me get in there.
Well, you could see how that might have an influence on Elon if you looked into him, and he's like, oh, you kind of did some legal work for the Snowden thing, something like that. Well, you know what else is ironic This is coming from Fox News. Elon Musk slams Wikipedia for considering deletion of Twitter files as entry. Non-trivial left-wing bias. So Wikipedia considering censoring the evidence of censorship.
It sounds like the people that were at Twitter are just, it's like the Three Little Pigs, like one of the things gets blown down, so they run to the next one. They just went to Wikipedia. They're just waiting for Elon to buy Wikipedia.
From what I hear, it's pretty difficult to get hired from Twitter right now. On Tuesday, Twitter owner Elon Musk slammed the online encyclopedia Wikipedia for contemplating removing its entry on the Twitter files investigation. The billionaire and Tesla CEO accused the website, which allows anyone to edit information on it, that's not exactly true, but okay, of showing its non-trivial left-wing bias for signaling the entry on the topic may be removed. Several wiki users had alleged the story is not significant or that it is based on nothing, prompting a review. As Fox News Digital, now we've talked about in the past, it's been widely uncovered that the CIA has a major, multiple intelligence agencies have major
dirty laundry
influence, if not influence,
direct tampering.
Wikipedia editors are CIA and FBI agents, control the quote unquote free flow of information type of thing. It's a known long-standing intelligence project. As Fox News Digital report Friday, the Twitter files were a bombshell Twitter thread. We know this. Let me scan down just a little bit. On Tuesday afternoon, the Twitter files investigation page on Wikipedia described the posts as a, quote, a Substack article by Matt Taibbi published on December 2022. It presented internal emails amongst Twitter employees who were discussing moderation of content related to the New York Post article that fomented the Hunter Biden laptop controversy. It added, quote, officials of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party asked Twitter employees to remove tweets they flagged. Conservative commentator Ian Miles Xiong alerted Musk to Wikipedia's pending decision to delete its entry on the major thread. As he pointed out on Twitter, the article is, quote, being considered for deletion in accordance with Wikipedia's deletion policy, as stated in a message at the top of the article. And it goes on, but so there you get the point. You got Wikipedia censoring the evidence of censorship on Twitter. It's really a wonderful world we live in.
Yeah, it's like the inception of of a censorship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great.
One of the other things that went sort of viral as part of this conversation was, I guess, older news, but it's recycling again. This is the postmillennial.com that carried this. Fauci's daughter worked for Twitter during pandemic, deposition reveals. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much straightforward there. On Monday, Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt released to Twitter the full transcription of Dr. Anthony Fauci's full deposition in the ongoing case regarding social media censorship, in which it was revealed that Fauci's daughter worked for Twitter. So there you go.
This was interesting. Yeah. So Fauci's daughter working for Twitter all throughout the pandemic. I had never heard this before. Had you heard this?
I don't think so. It sounds like something that it would have. I think it could have. It would have been a bigger deal if it was out there more. So, I mean, I didn't.
Here's the thing. Yeah. If you or I don't remember this as being a detail, it was very expertly kept out of our view.
It was kept out, yeah. Because the deposition here was from November 23rd, so it was only a couple weeks ago.
Oh, even before that, I did a little search, and there were blog posts and articles from some just strange outlets back in 2020. Talking about Fauci's daughter working at Twitter.
See, it was all just fringe and nonsensical. It was not in mainstream view, but
that's exactly right.
Information was out there.
Another example of a detail like Fauci's daughter working at Twitter was considered a conspiracy, crazy person, fringe, blog, nonsense story until 2 years later, it comes out in a deposition from Fauci's own mouth. admitting that his daughter worked at Twitter at the time. So yeah, just another fun little detail about, the broader story of control of information. You just got to have the right people in the right place at the right time. Now, part of the reason I think maybe why it was obscured from us was because of the timing. 2020 was a little bit too early to really care about Twitter censorship, I think. Of course, it's always kind of been going on, but it was late 2020, November 2020, that was the Hunter Biden laptop story. So early 2020, the real firestorm of Twitter censorship hadn't even started yet.
When did Trump get banned from Twitter? Was that after
January? It was after. It was January 8th, 2021.
Okay, so yeah. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, you're right. 2020 was probably the final moments before Twitter became the center of
because
all the
Hunter Biden laptop happened in October of 2020.
Right.
And, anything before that, Twitter, we knew Twitter kind of didn't, they weren't up to snuff. They weren't necessarily on the people's side, but the real egregious act of the Hunter laptop censorship hadn't happened yet. So I think a lot of it was just timing. But yeah, there you go. Fauci's daughter working at Twitter. And if you're Fauci's daughter, you're not just some peon, censorship person, or not even censorship, just moderation person, or you're not getting the coffee at Twitter if you're Fauci's daughter, especially during the pandemic.
She is science.
Science is truth. Dater.
She's the daughter of science.
The dater or the daughter?
Dater.
Nice. My dad is science.
My dad is science. You listen to me.
You listen to me. My dad is science.
Sounds like Trump.
We will launch a new age. I am
innocent. Innocent.
They're coming after me.
CNN.com. Trump organization found guilty on all counts of criminal tax fraud. I think that jingle is delightful in contrast to this headline.
Perfect.
Yeah, so, we don't have to spend too much time on it, but it says here
big story.
It is. A Manhattan jury has found 2 Trump Organization companies guilty of multiple charges of criminal tax fraud and falsifying business records connected to a 15-year scheme to defraud tax authorities by failing to report and pay taxes on compensation for top executives.
Yeah. So this was the story. We've been kind of following it as it goes along, but this is the story where they, in order to avoid taxes for some of their executives, instead of paying them in their salary, which they would have to pay taxes on, they would give their executives leases on cars. They would give their executives, basically perks that stepped over the line a little bit and weren't getting reported as compensation, because you're supposed to report all compensation. Now, as we said at the time, this is a common practice in sort of the executive space. It's not like the Trump organization made this up, like invented this, or the Trump organization
is loophole. Right?
Yeah, it is unique in their deployment of these things. But yes, it does come at a time. It's really interesting too, because a lot of the articles about this, which we've seen these before, but you see headlines right now of Trump organization guilty of tax fraud, but that's not his biggest problem. And you're like, yeah, it actually isn't, because the fine that they're getting.
Yeah, I know. I read. I was going to read the. Okay, so let me go through it here, because it says here the Trump Corp and Trump Payroll Corp were found guilty on all charges they faced. Donald Trump and his family were not charged in this case, but the former president was mentioned repeatedly during the trial by prosecutors about his connection to the benefits doled out to certain executives, including company-funded apartments, car leases, and personal expenses. The Trump organization could face a maximum of $1.61 million in fine. That's million with an M. That is a little less than 1,000th of what Alex Jones owns those parents of.
Yeah, right. This Trump is for his
slap on the wrist.
His tax crimes, he owes 1/100th of the amount that Alex Jones owes.
Isn't it 1,000? Doesn't he own $1 billion?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, you're right.
Anyway,
1/1000th.
1.61 is about a half. But anyway, so
sure.
Not that much, not that big of a thing.
It's nothing. It's a slap on the wrist. It's nothing. The worst part about this is the headlines. The worst part about it is the PR of Trump, being found guilty of anything. Just Trump and guilty appearing next to each other is kind of the worst part of this. However, he's been going through 7 years of this. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the timing of it all is very interesting. And sure, okay. I mean, what you get a little financial hit, but nothing. I don't think the Trump empire can't handle.
Yeah, 1.6 million is nothing, right?
Yeah, so much of a nothing burger, I guess. But what's interesting? I will bring this up again in the whole 80 trillion that's missing. I did a little more digging on this, and basically, it's these different. It's offshore type of stuff between nations, lending and borrowing against each other, and doing it all off the balance sheets. They don't report it, Right. So it's very similar to what Trump did here. Like, just don't report it. You get around it, and so I don't know. Are they trying to expose that aspect of finance and potentially use it for their benefit of some kind of Trojan horse thing where you can bring in more transparency, but it's actually more control? Who knows? But I just thought it was interesting. This is sort of a similar thing going on all over the world, including 80 trillion worth that is off balance or off the balance sheet of all these non-U.S. institutions.
Which money. $80 trillion is like more than the GDP of the entire planet or something. Like, there's more money missing.
Oh, by the way, did you know that 80 trillion comes due in 2023?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
that's quite the bill. Who even is responsible for that?
So it's kind of complicated
just
because
central
it's between
banks.
Yeah, so there's a trade thing in the middle, and then these institutions in one country. Let's say they have an office in another country. You gotta borrow some money to buy something over there, and you gotta have the exchange rate, and to avoid these high interest rates and all this kind of stuff. They do these things where it's all this FX swap stuff that we talked about last episode, but. I don't know. I mean, either they're gonna
swaps,
either they're gonna liquidate all that stuff they bought to pay for it, or companies are just going to go under. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to watch.
I don't even think it exists. The money doesn't even exist.
Well, the money doesn't exist. They used it to buy stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll
or
have to see
loan or something. Yeah. Yeah, and just for those who need, FX means foreign exchange. So this is happening in the exchange from one currency to another. So it's international banks playing footsie, inventing money out of nowhere.
Playing God.
All right. Well, let's thank some of our very talented producers.
Let's do that. Okay, hold on. No. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Break.
It's break.
This is a break. Don't just consume the content, but
become the content. Become the content.
Take a break.
I will take a quick break here to thank some producers who came in with their God-given talent. Don't just consume the content. Actually provide value back by building the culture behind the community here at Canary Cry News Talk. All we ask is that you make it about the show specifically. And let's kick it off with, wait, we don't have any audio. I think we just have art.
One art, please.
And microfiction. We've got something from Sir Dove here.
One art, please, from Dove.
And, oh, what happened to it? I got to show it to the people watching so they can see. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. And go full screen and read the note. Oh no, the note disappeared too. Oh no, what's going on? Here we go.
You have a breakdown.
Yeah, I'm having a breakdown. Dove here says, peace. For today's artwork, I made another possible merit badge. This time for any streaker that hits 100 episodes in a row with their time, talent, or treasure. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for yins. This is a badge of it's using the Wilt Chamberlain 100, presumably of the when he scored 100 points, that famous picture where he's holding up a piece of paper that says 100, and applying it to the 100 episode streaker.
Yeah, 100 episode streaker merit badge. I'm loving it. I'm having a hard time pulling up this piece of art. I've lost it in my jumble, my metaverse jumble here. But you described it perfectly. I love it, Sir Dove. Thank you very much. The merit badge system, this is what we need. We need these merit badges designed before we can do anything. And I think 100 episode streak for producers is an excellent, what's the word? I don't know, milestone to celebrate with a merit badge to go on your Canary Cry sash. Thank you very much, Sir Dove.
Thank you, Sir Dove. And we'll make NFTs of all of this, and we got to teach everybody how to have a wallet. And it's just it's a big thing,
Keep telling yourself that, Gons.
Hey, the procedure's there. The people, the instructional side of it is what's the issue. Because, people don't necessarily want to do crypto. So.
I saw you have some videos, some instructional videos made up.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're just sitting there. We got to activate, brother. Yeah, but I guess that is a big part of NFTs, Gons, is just talking about them for months before they even exist, huh? Is that the way the scam works?
Yeah, just started Twitter Spaces and just pump some nifty.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sir Dove.
Thank you, Sir Dove. Fantastic work as always. All right, we have a microfiction, a pair of them.
Microfiction. Microfiction.
From Rung Smash.
The hero rockets towards the iron beam cannons as they fire. He says a quick prayer that is reflective shield holds, and crouches down until he hears the explosion. And so ends the last episode of Bong Thoughts with Chris Cillizza, but not his legacy.
On this point, Chris Cillizza did tweet out today, a few hours ago, the full 10-episode run of my podcast, Downside Up, is now out. I'm super proud of it. The goal was to make people think differently about their everyday lives, the stuff we take for granted, and what would happen if it didn't exist.
Yeah,
How did we do it?
Establishment shill. Mainstream narrative projector Chris Cillizza wants you to think different, folks. Think in a different way.
You're the top comment on there. Do you own the podcast, Chris?
That's right. I'm trying to get in my boy's head. I want to know if he owns the podcast. I want to know what the deal is, buddy. Come on. Look, he's a free agent now, and we gotta get our boy. Notably, there's 33 likes on his tweet there.
Yeah,
which I find is funny. The engagement on his Twitter is
it's
minuscule.
Pitiful. It's sad. There is this one.
He has 600 times the followers I have, and he gets like the same amount of engagement than I do.
I like this reply. I don't like it. I denounce it. It says here, your podcast is trash. This is talking to Chris Cillizza. Your takes and opinions are what got you canned from CNN. Pick a rock and crawl under it. I mean, people are so mean on Twitter. Most important part is to stay under the rock. Oh, slam.
This is kind of why I switched my attitude in criticizing Chris. I don't want to be mean to him. I mean, there's enough people being mean to him. I'm trying a different approach here. But he had some fans. I'm thinking this is one of Chris's burner accounts.
Yeah.
This Pete Carney fella says, "'Twas fun Don't want to imagine my Monday podcast feed without it. Shop around. The Hulu or Audible or Sirius XM will pick it up. Yeah, your 10-episode podcast, you're going to sell to Hulu? All right, Pete Carney, if that is your real name.
The only person that liked that post was John Hammondtree, the co-founder of Reckin News.
Yeah,
which is senior producer of CNN's Downside Up. Oh, senior producer.
He is the producer of the podcast.
This is the only like.
Is the one who liked that tweet.
Maybe it's his burner account.
It might be.
Anyway,
yeah,
we're tearing down his whole social media empire.
We're not tearing him down. I want to help him. I want him to come on our show. We can start a grassroots movement. I was giving him too much credit last episode, or a couple episodes ago. I thought that he had like 20 episodes. I didn't know he just had 10 episodes, and they weren't even all out yet. And he has a senior producer. These episodes are 30 minutes long. He has 10 of them, and he has a senior producer. This is ridiculous. But I did ask if he owns the podcast. He has not
responded to you.
Not responded to me yet.
Yeah, maybe we need to put his. You should tag his name in your bio or something to know that you're a serious guy. All right, thank you very much, Wrong Smash, for inspiring the rabbit trail of the stuff. We have another microfiction from the Sentinel. Here we go. Is it playing? Why is it playing? There it is.
As the three men travel the lands back to the Canarium, a voice yells at them from behind a rickety fence. Revelation ready rabbits! Special sale today, only buy one and you might get 12 free! Ooh.
Epic rabbits.
Revelation ready rabbits. That's a good way to brand these bunnies. Yeah, because that's the whole thing. You buy one of them, and, if the apocalypse hits, you might get 12 free, which means you'll be eating pretty good for a couple weeks. Yeah. Thank you very much, the Sentinel.
Very good. Yep. And that does it for our talented producers and their talent.
Yeah, a little slow on the producership all around today. Interesting. It's the holidays, yeah. Okie dokie, let's get back to the show.
Let's. And what are we doing? Oh, yeah, we're woke, baby.
We're woke.
Are you even woke?
Woke up, man.
Arr, sharks.
Guns.
Arr, arr.
Well, this was the funniest thing that I had ever seen. Okay?
I feel bad for all the Michaels.
There's no intellectual property. There is no media organization. There's not a single product that is safe from the woke mob. This is coming from Washington Post. Headline: Shark Week lacks diversity. Overrepresents men named Mike. Scientists say. Scientists, Gons. Shark Week lacks diversity. I mean, by definition, it's called Shark Week, not sharks and dolphins and octopus and whales. It categorically is not diverse because of its singular focus on sharks.
Speciesist.
But it also overrepresents men named Mike.
Hey, listen. I think Shark Week overrepresents sharks, okay?
I think so too.
You need to mix it up a little bit, let in some other people, let other animals that don't get enough play. It's all about the shark,
Now, Guns.
Yeah.
Believe the science, okay? Scientists are the ones saying this. Let's see what they say. Okay. Lisa Whitenack loved sharks as a kid. Whitenack.
Okay.
Whitenack. Loved sharks as a kid. She spent rainy days leafing through a guide to sharks and Reader's Digest. Every summer, she would watch Shark Week.
Yeah, like all of us.
Discovery's annual TV event that spotlights the ocean predator with 7 days of dedicated programming. But when the scientists appeared on her TV screen, she rarely saw any women she could look up to. Quote, Why would I know I could do that? Whitenack said. Quote, I don't come from a family of scientists. I didn't see very many people that looked like me on television. Whitenack, now a biology professor at Allegheny College in Meadville, Pennsylvania, found her way into shark research anyway.
Wait. So she's upset that she didn't have a role model that would lead her to become a shark researcher. So maybe, where you think that would go is like, yeah, I'm doing this other thing, but shark is my passion. It's a hobby.
Despite the patriarchy, despite the racism and bigotry in shark research, she found her way into shark research anyway.
So
when the lockdowns came in 2020, she saw an opportunity to study the source of her old misconceptions. So she was stuck at home and didn't have anything to do, and so watched a bunch of Shark Week. Was Shark Week feeding audiences the wrong messages about sharks? And who studies them? Whitenack led a team of researchers to examine hundreds of Shark Week episodes that aired between 1988 and 2020 in a study published last month by the Public Library of Science.
Yeah,
the
tax
Public
money
Library of Science.
Going to good use right here.
Yeah, there's not even a link to it. Oh, there's the link to the study.
I'm looking at it now. I'm pulling it up.
Their research claims that Discovery's programming emphasized negative messages about sharks. Oh, no!
What could be a negative?
Week,
a shark might bite your head off. Is that a negative message?
The dangers.
Oh my
gosh. Dangers of sharks. Negative. They emphasized negative messages about sharks. They lacked useful messaging about shark conservation and overwhelmingly featured white men as experts, including several white men, Gons, with the same name. Dun, dun, dun.
White clones.
Yeah, so not only can women not be shark scientists, but if you're not named Mike, you can't be a shark scientist. If we're following the logic here. The programming featured more white experts and commentators named Mike than women, said David Schiffman, a conservationist at Arizona State University, who is the co-author of the study. Quote, when there are hundreds of people of color interested who work in the field.
Okay, so it clearly did not prevent people of different gender or ethnicity to go into the field, but okay.
And it goes on.
Hindsight.
And when my field is more than half women, maybe it's not an accident anymore. Ooh. That they're only featuring white men, Schiffman said. So we've got a little bit of an issue with the logic of the start of the article, which is it was all guys named Mike, so it would discourage people of color and women from becoming shark scientists, except for more than half of the field is women, and there's hundreds of people of color. So apparently, Mike did not do a good enough job of enforcing the Shark Week patriarchy. Maybe that's what this is about. The failed
it's not
Shark Week patriarchy.
Yeah, that would be a good angle to take.
Discovery did not respond to a request for comment on the study's findings. The companies told NBC Boston that it wouldn't comment on the study, quote, that has yet to pass any scientific approvals. Yeah, what happened to the peer review process? That means this is not even peer-reviewed, and Washington Post is pushing it. After a preliminary version was presented in 2021, it has since undergone scientific review, Whitenack said. Okay. He didn't confirm it, but okay. Shark Week, a 34-year-old tradition and consistent ratings draw for Discovery, has faced criticism in the past. Scientists and TV critics blasted the event in 2020 for announcing a roster of TV specials that featured 6 white men out of 8 named experts. Okay. A Whitenack study found that The Great White Shark Week. It's too white. Whiteneck study, and her name is Whiteneck. Whiteneck study found that the trend persisted throughout almost all of the television events history. Over 90% of the 229 experts featured in 201 Shark Week episodes were white, the study found, and about 78% were men. Carly Bohannon, a marine biologist and co-founder of Minorities in Shark Scientists. They have an entire organization of minorities in shark sciences.
I mean, they must be the majority.
Specific. Well, praised the study for putting numbers to her and her colleagues' long-standing concerns about diversity in both media and shark science. Okay.
Shouldn't she have the numbers already?
There obviously is not a problem with diversity in shark science.
Yeah,
they said
70%
over
women.
half of the shark scientists are women, and there's hundreds of people of color. So I don't know what Carly's talking about here. When Bohannon founded her organization with 3 other black scientists in 2020, sounds like you have at least 197 other scientists of color that you're not including.
Sounds like you were bored in 2020.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of shark scientists had a lot of time to kill in 2020. It was the first time any of them had met other black women in their field. Quote, "We all grew up seeing one..." That just is statistically improbable, but okay. Quote, "We all grew up seeing one type of person on TV," Bohannon said. "Shark Week was really the biggest thing, and it was always filled with white men." According to a separate diversity study co-written by Schiffman, more than half of the members of the American Elasmo Branch Society, an academic branch supporting the study of sharks and other fish, more than half of the members of this shark society are women, but over 70% of the group's leadership positions have been held by men. Okay, so this is a problem with the numbers here.
Yeah, what's the ratio between what's the percentage of the whole society, the leadership? Because
how many leaders are there in the leadership?
Right.
But here's the problem. They say it right here. Positions have been held by men. Now, I'll grant that perhaps in 1988, I'll grant that probably in 1988 and maybe even a decade after, there were not a whole lot of people of color or women in the industry. I'll give you that, especially on TV. There was no social justice movements in the way that we have today. I'll give you that. But to count that against Shark Week today, to say that in the entire history of Shark Week or of this American Elasmo Branch Society, I'll even give you that. Look that up, Gons.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
When was it founded?
I'm not sure. 1980.
Because what they're saying is 70% in the history of the society. And a lot of these scientific societies are like 100 years old. So, yeah, duh. If it started in 1930, I'm sure that most of them were white men for a long time. Anyways, women in marine scientists can also face a misogynistic culture. Marine biologist Catherine McDonald wrote in Scientific American in 2020. All right, misogynistic shark scientist. Quote, "Shark Week further concentrates power in the form of publicity and media attention in the hands of white male featured scientists, exacerbating academic power imbalances," McDonald wrote. Sure, I'm sure there's academic power imbalances, and I'm sure that Shark Week doesn't help. In the latest study, Whiteneck and the other researchers also found that more Shark Week episodes included stories of attacks and other fear-mongering messages than positive language describing sharks. We have telling too many scary stories about sharks during Shark Week instead of positive languages describing sharks as awe-inspiring or ecologically important, which the study called a missed opportunity. Stop being mean to sharks, white men named Mike.
Here's a
TV,
question,
folks.
I have a question, and I'm looking at this. Well, the page, the study here, the link they have, not great. I mean, it's kind of janky, and I don't know. It's not really clear as to what's going on with these charts, and there's not much in the abstract. I'm wondering, are they for sure distinguishing all the mics, or are they counting the appearances of the scientists? Mic. Yeah, maybe the same mic that appears in every season or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not a Shark Week pro, but yeah, that's a good question. That's why we need to read the study. Did they just count? Because they do keep talking about episodes. They see out of 201 episodes,
right,
there were more mics. So is it the same mic who's just hosting all the episodes? Like, okay, tell us that. Is that what you're counting? Is there Shark Week mic? I'm not a Shark Week aficionado. Is there like a famous, like, Mike who has hosted Shark Week for 20 years or something? Because if that's how you're counting this is a complete joke. It goes on, quote, Shark Week also lacked effective messaging about conservation
Shark Week is all about messaging.
Shark Week. Yeah. Though Discovery has used the show to promote legislation protecting sharks, Shark Week rarely gave viewers actionable information about conservation issues, such as avoiding seafoods caught in ways that also trap and harm sharks. The blasphemy! Tell me which fish not to eat so I don't hurt the sharks, and stop being so negative. But Whiteneck and Bohannon agreed that the biggest concern...
Oh, the biggest one.
Yeah, so they mentioned for a second that they didn't give actionable steps to shark conversation, but Whiteneck and Bohannon agreed that the biggest concern was with the program's lack of diversity and how that might shape young scientists' perceptions of marine biology and whether they could enter the field. More than half of your entire field is women. More than 70% of your scientific organization is women. Obviously, Mike did not keep women from joining shark science. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
This is going to force a lot of mics to come out and say that they're Michelle or something like that,
Yes,
just to
we need
balance
a trans Shark Week marine biologist.
But I think this sentence gives it away. It's to shape young scientists' perceptions of marine biology. So I think what they don't like is that, obviously our industry is filled with women and minorities and everything else, but the way it's portrayed, the perception that Shark Week creates is that it's not like that. But
whether they could enter the field, it's obvious. I mean, the numbers show that all of these white men named Mike on Shark Week have already inspired the majority of the industry to be populated by women.
I'm sure a lot of minorities and young women over the years saw Shark Week and saw Mike and was like, inspired by Mike. I want to be like Mike.
Mike is a feminist hero. Apparently in the Shark Week.
Oh, you're right. They should all mics should be celebrated. Retire the Mike's number.
Whatever Mike did for 30 years in Shark Week, he inspired. It's probably the most diverse scientific community I've ever even seen. Now listen to this. This is a really egregious part. Quote, diversity in people brings diversity in thought. This is a quote. Diversity in people brings diversity in thought, which ultimately brings innovation.
Bohannon is that said. What we want? Innovation.
We need to innovate sharks. We need bigger sharks, more teeth, laser vision, wings. We need sharks flying in the sky. We need to innovate these sharks. Quote, being able to see someone who looks like you in a field really has an impact. Diversity in people brings diversity in thought. This is an outrageous statement. In the conversation of diversity, you have the left who promotes diversity in people, and you have the right who promote diversity of thought. That's kind of the current diversity conversation going on in the media. But to say simply by having people of different skin colors or genders automatically equals diversity in thought is a complete lie. It is a propagandistic piece of libel, because that's the whole problem with focusing on diversity in skin tone or gender, is as long as they all think the same, then they're allowed in the club. It's the problem with our academic university system. It's the problem with our executive ESG hiring methods. It is the argument against what is it called? Where there's racial quotas that companies and schools need to meet. Anyways, y'all know what I'm talking about. I mean, the diversity of people does not equal diversity in thought. In fact, often it does exactly the opposite. And again, if you want diversity in the shark science department, apparently you need more men, because you got 70% women. Just saying.
Or over 50%.
Whitenack said Discovery hasn't contacted the research group. In 2020, National Geographic developed a partnership with minorities in shark sciences that allowed members of the organization to participate in the network's competing TV program, Shark Fest. So this is National Geographic getting in on the game, starting on the Shark Fest.
Yeah, compete with Shark Week.
Bohannon said 7 scientists of color from the group appeared in this year's programming. Notice how they give an exact number for Shark Fest, but they only give percentages for Shark Week.
Yeah.
Nice little lie with statistics there. Bohannon appeared on Shark Fest twice to talk about nurse sharks in Bahamas and how they have adapted to swim in shallow water. It felt like a milestone, one she wishes more of her peers get to experience. Quote, "Just seeing myself on TV," Bohannon said. "It was very surreal." And right there, they give it away. They just want to be on TV.
They want to be on TV.
It's not about the industry. It's not about representation within the scientific community. It's about being on TV. That's what they really want. I think there's an interesting aspect to this too, Gons. Discovery, being part of the conglomerate that just purchased CNN.
Right, that's right.
And CNN chopping a bunch of the liberal celebrity news readers, Chris Shilzilla, Cuomo, all those guys. So this is
it would be interesting to see.
It's a war against Discovery, Time Warner, who are dismantling the democratic media machine, if indeed that is what they're doing.
Did someone do a tally of all the white men that were let go from the CNN firing?
They're pretty much all white men.
Yeah.
Chris Cuomo, Chris Cillizza.
Well, this recent slew of firing is what
I think there's a white woman who got fired. Ashley something or other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's it also, it makes me wonder how much weight do you put in Shark Week? Is Shark Week the Super Bowl of all shark research? Is that why they're so concerned about how it's portrayed and all this? I mean I don't think this is a personal feud with these people. Yeah. And so what percentage of people that actually work in the field of sharks today was like, I was inspired by Shark Week? Seemingly probably a lot, but I don't know. It's just, does it really matter that much?
It's kind of the same problem that we have with some sort of conspiracy theory content, which is don't lie when the truth is enough.
Right.
So they spend most of this article lying about the diversity in the industry. The industry is about as diverse as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
But don't make it about the industry. Don't manufacture victimhood just because you want to be on TV. The issue is, hey, we just want more representation on TV. It's not about the industry. It's not about the science. It's not about innovation. It's not about diversity of scientific research or scientists. It's about wanting that diversity expressed on TV. And that's fine. I understand if these people, these shark scientists, want more people of color and women on Shark Week on TV, that's okay. But you don't need to manufacture some diversity crisis that literally, by your own numbers, does not exist. Just say you want to be on TV, okay?
Well, and even the weight of being on TV is not what it was. I mean, having Shark Week was a big deal when we were kids. Is it still a big deal? Like, or is it only a big deal to people that actually grew up in that 80s, 90s? It was a big. I mean, we didn't have internet like we do now, so everyone's going to tune in. Yeah, everyone's going to tune in to Shark Week, so it was a thing. But I don't think it's as culturally relevant today. And also, the whole, create your own thing. Shark Fest, do your own. And National Geographic gets behind you. Hey, you're good, man. They're good. They got their moment.
Yeah.
What are they complaining about? They're just wasting time. They've run out of things to cancel and complain about. I mean, this is really the bottom of the barrel when it comes to issues that need address.
Totally. And it's annoying because I totally would support diversifying Shark Week. I'm actually all for it. Go for it.
Well, if
put this lady on TV. I'm totally for it. Don't care. I mean, I do care. I will. Yeah, I'll fight for you. Get more ladies on Shark Week. I think Shark Week needs more ladies, honestly.
Yeah.
Too many mics, man. I mean, if you're looking to boost ratings, get some ladies up in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, to invent this victimhood in the whole industry that doesn't exist, just literally riding off the backs, manipulating and taking advantage of sort of diversity culture for your own personal gain. Unfortunately, it's too much in line with lots of activism culture where, you ride the backs of activisms to you ride the backs of activist movements with the express goal of personal gain. I mean, it's been shown by the left and the right to be the fact of the matter. And that's what we're seeing here, this fake victimhood within the thing. So anyways, I do want to see innovation.
Sure.
Sharks with wings.
Sure. Yeah. I'm at the Elasmo Branch Society website here, the About section. There's not a whole lot about it. I thought they would have bios of, who's in charge now or whatever, but it says here, the American Elasmo Branch Society is a nonprofit organization that seeks to advance the scientific study of living and fossil sharks, skates, rays, and chimeras. And the promotion of education, conservation, and wise utilization of natural resources.
Okay, so they're Nephilim shark studiers.
And it talks about how they hold an annual meeting with the ichthyologists and herpetologists. And it was interesting because they have a link there to the JMIH, the American Society of Ichthyologists and Herpetologists thing. And their logo, I got rid of it. Shoot, hold on. Their logo is like a little, what do you call it? A seahorse and like a little amphibian creature looking thing, so maybe this is the spirit of the three frogs that are in, in the Bible prophecy there. And maybe these guys are in charge of, especially the chimera part, finding all the necessary things needed to resurrect the Nephilim or something. Just saying.
I'm looking at some of their tables in the study.
Yeah.
In 2016, 50% of the shows had female experts.
So what are they complaining about?
Well, it went down to 45% in 2017. Went back up to 49% in 2018. Dropped a little bit in 19. 20 was back up to 46% or something. So they've been really close to 50-50. Episodes with women, episodes with just men.
I think this is a personal thing from this. White Knack
didn't make the cut.
It's just a bad stepdad named Mike or something. Something happened to her.
Mike.
And she's just taking it out.
What have you done, Mike? I want to see the Mike
seriously though. Think about it. You start a study about something else because didn't she say that she started off looking at how sharks might be misrepresented or something like that, right?
No, they just included a bunch
sharks.
of social shark justice.
Social shark justice, which turned into human, so I wonder, she had some personal thing happen, and then she started tallying the numbers, and, so she has a bad experience with the mic, and then here's Mike talking about sharks, which she's an expert in sharks, and poor girl probably got.
What'd you do, Mike?
Something happened to her, Mike did something to her, this is, we should be praying for her.
There is a.
Did you cut out or did you stop talking?
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Check.
Mm-hmm.
There am I. There's a graph in here that graphs the titles of content with negative titles.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like sharks are mean.
Mm-hmm.
Check sharks are mean tonight at 8. And it's about 50% across the board. 50% of except for the past
after
10 years.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. After 2010.
After 2010, negative shark titles in the name is at like 10% or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is bogus. Get out of here with your shark wokeness. Get on out of here. All right, folks. I think that's it. You want to get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But I do want to thank some of our producers. Thank you to our executive producer, Arnold W. Thank you to our small band of brothers producing the show today. We appreciate it very, very much with your time and your talent and your treasure. But I do have some other producers I want to thank, starting with the Clippies.
Clipping all those videos.
Thanks, Emsworth and Faye Liverin, for managing the Clips channel and clipping out the show. And that would be a very difficult, well, it is a very difficult job. It would be even harder if it weren't for the timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Thank you to Jade Bouncerson. Working hard lately there, Jade Bouncerson. Let us know if we need to find more timestampers. Thank you for the timestamps for episode 567.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you to our social media gal.
Social media.
Social media consultant.
Thanks so much. Social media. Follow us.
That's right. Dame Miss G, the OV, and the Deep Rivers, making sure that art gets up on the social media. Thank you very much. Go to canarycrymeetups.com.
Canary Cry Meetup.
This Sunday, wow, that's coming fast. This Sunday, we have 2 meetups, one in Ottawa, Canada, one in Missouri, Silver Dollar City. So go to canarycrymeetups.com. Check those out. Show up. Hang out. It's a wonderful time of the year to meet up with other Canarians. And, we'll see you at the meetup.
This is fun! See you at the meetup.
Yippee. Go leave us some ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. It's incredibly important, not just helpful. It's essential that we get ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. And there are thousands of you who have not done that yet. You're listening to it right now on Apple Podcasts, and you still have not left a rating and a review, probably because out of some sort of rebellion against the things that bring happiness to Gons, and I'm not sure. We are at a negative 80% monthly growth of reviews. It has been a brutal
having our own
time.
Reset over here.
Yeah, truly. So please go leave us some ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Really helpful.
Yep, thank you.
And while you are at it, thank you, Jam, for the links. Thank you, Clankanifius, for the reminders and the personal assistance. Other than that, just go share the show, folks. Share the show. It's about time. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go down to your local hardware store. You're going to get some neoprene. You're going to get some silver spray paint. You're going to get some big shark-looking teeth nails, and you're going to build yourself an underwater shark suit, okay? Because it's about time that Canary Cry got on the shark game. And what's going to happen is just start swimming around in your bodies of water. It doesn't need to be the ocean, but it could be. Could be creeks, could be ponds, could be watering holes. Wherever you are, find a piece of water, dress like a shark, go diving in. And these pesky little shark scientists, they're coming at you. They got to keep doing Shark Week every year, over and over and over. We need to increase the rate of shark sightings, get the real attention of the shark, the wonderful, talented, beautiful women of the shark science community to come out, take a look at these crazy sharks that are showing up in weird bodies of water. And what's that? Every single one of them has a pair of headphones on and is trailing the smartphone behind them. And what is that? We must research. We must uncover the secrets of the ocean's most deadly predators, but also do it in a positive light. It's Shark Week. They're not deadly, man-eating, bloodthirsty beasts. No, they're intellectual, free-thinking, narrative skeptics, and we need to appreciate that about sharks. I'm looking for the new Shark Week special, Podcast Sharks. And what is this? There's been something has happened in the shark community where they are now getting super into podcasts, and it seems that they're all tuning in to the same one, a podcast called Canary Cry News Talk. Yes, that's right, Canary Cry News Talk, the favorite podcast choice of the world's most free-thinking sharks. And booyah, baby, that's our ticket. That's our ticket on a Shark Week, Gons. Then we don't have to run some crazy scientific study and talk about how no podcasters have been on Shark Week in over 36 years. What is this? Well, that's just one way you can share the show, folks. You can also just word of mouth it. Tell your friends. Post it on social media. That's all very helpful. Whatever you do, we call it rattling cages, and all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages.
Hey, stop that!
You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy.
Leave the bird alone!
Never! Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. All right, Gons, any last words?
That lady should buy the San Jose Sharks. And
I was thinking she should buy my bunnies.
Yeah. Shark
bunnies? These bunnies would make good shark bait.
Oh,
you know?
Shark bait.
Lure them in.
Yeah, today was Pearl Harbor, what is this? Remembrance Day.
Yes.
So maybe I should email Governor Newsom, see if I can get a little reparation cash, just be like, hey,
I think that's opposite.
Your Californians arrested.
It's California. He's gonna start asking you for reparations cash.
What are you talking about? They took the Japanese people to internment camps like 7 years ago.
Yeah, but also Pearl Harbor. You took our coolest ships. Too soon. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Sharks.
Donna.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
Can I tell you a sort of a twisted pleasure that I have?
It's okay. No.
Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap.
It takes time. Oh, a lint catcher?
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. I was like, oh, a lint catcher
It's a great reset. A lint catcher. I love it, man. Hey, you gotta clean this out. A lint catcher. I love it, man. Yeah. I love peeling off that big old lint trap, rolling it into a ball, peeling off that big old lint trap. Just like throwing it in the trash, really. Should I be saving this? No. You could knit it into a scarf or something? No.
It will kill.
Surely. It's very soft. No. This would make really good fire starter. You are a weird prepper. Hoarder. Like a weird guy.
We're all gonna die.
Man. Weird prepper. Not normal, like a weird guy,
I love the Great Reset.
Clearing out that lint trap. No. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. That lint trap. I know it's gross, folks. A lint catcher. I love it, man. You gotta clean this out. It's like a lint catcher. It's a great reset. A lint catcher. I love it, man. You gotta clean this out. A lint catcher. I love that. I am constantly having to remind myself to wear a pink shirt for the show. Constantly having to remind myself, save the dryer lint, use it as fire starter, knit a scarf, save the dryer lint.
We will hunt you down and make you pay. Armageddon's on the way. Armageddon's on the way.
This is the way.
goodbye, everybody, and that's the end. And everyone says, oh, that was fun.
Bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support.